Hello everyone, this is XL2K on YouTube, Shy Sean on Facebook, and today I'm going to be playing the role of your tokusatsu video game reviewer, and I'm going to be bringing to you a review of Kamen Rider Climax Fighters, the new 2v2 versus game for Kamen Rider on the PS4, one of two Kamen Rider games, the other being Bat Wars Sosei / Genesis. Uh, Okay, so let's go into some quick stuff. This is a 2v2, of course, which is more allude to the Gundam versus franchise, the games like J-Stars or the last Joseph Adventure game, maybe Dissidia to a lesser degree. And pretty much it consists of, 2v2 battles, 4 players, has 1v1 ranked, 2v2 ranked, it has split screen, which is a nice touch for up to 4 players. More a little bit elaborated to that later. There's also a premium sound edition for JP only that's not available for the other regions. And sadly, this game doesn't really have it has an edited BMG option, but you can't really use it to add tracks from your USB drive like you could with Batman or Sosei. You kind of just put whatever the hell you want, which is kind of bad. That it's only the character themes are only really available for one region. So if you want to have it in English, you're kind of getting penalized. You know, kind of sucks, and I don't think that's a very good move on Namco Bandai's part. It shows poor form. Share replays. You can do any replays you want on that end. Let's get to the core of the matter, however. Gameplay wise, lot of issues there for me. Where do I start? It's not as fast as say a Gundam Versus, which is kind of strange to me. It's similar-ish to J-Star speed, but it feels even slower than that somehow. It's lacking a lot of a good mix-up game with not a lot of very reliable evasion techniques. The sidestep is kind of clunky, and sometimes it's hard to get a good beat on how much range. It doesn't cover a lot of space either, so evasion is kind of like a really split-second thing when it comes to that, and there's no real way to solidly cancel in between attacks. So you get maybe a roll, but the delay is so high, it's not really worth talking about. Some of the specials and the tracking with some of the moves, like certain rider kicks, don't really line up very good with tracking. They don't account for how close or far the enemy is to you. So sometimes, like for example, you do like Black's punch to his rider kick for his ultimate attack, and it tends to miss completely if it's the person's not hanging on a wall or something. Uh, it also has a voltage system that apparently punishes you or rewards you depending on how much you attack or how much you defend, which kind of has a possibility of maybe being a little bit broken for the simple fact that all somebody would really need to do is just kind of lean with projectiles, make you dodge block a billion times until your block gets fucking red, and then possibly lean on you with punishing results. Also, each character does have kind of a uniqueness to them, not as strongly as Sosei did. There's certain game mechanics, temp transformation. Some characters have temp specials. Once the sub meter fills up, everybody has a burst mode that has an ultimate attack and all that nonsense. The burst mode is a bit broken in my opinion. It has super armor the entire way. It can only be moved by other people using burst modes, making and the ultimate attack I don't think can even be blocked. Doesn't really seem like it. Uh, that's not very good at all. A lot of games kind of boil down to, oh well, you have a bad burst. You have to wait until the near end or specific times. It's not as open as the Gundam Versus series, where the awakening modes aren't a MacGuffin to get easy hits, or it isn't so clear cut when's a bad time to burst and when's a good time to burst. It's not that clear cut, making it a more free and open system. When this one feels way more constricting and gives just way too much of a cheesy comeback mechanic. Certain characters have certain mechanics that seem a little bit on the brokenish side, like Burr, for example, feels the most out of not scaled right because he has a lot of projectile moves. Well, as you respect, but on top of that, he has like the breast cannon that can be charged to infinity, which is not good. Just most of the time, power beams. I don't even know if you can really stop power beams. Every time I do a power beam, somebody stands in the way. They always get clobbered. Uh, it kind of hurts the ebb and flow of 2v2 versus the downstate lasts for a very long time, which could sometimes lead to a lot of 2-on-1 situations. Uh, it's just, where do I even start? So they ebb and the flow of it. There's not a lot of mix-up game there. You know, it's most of the time it's just trying to remember ranges and trying to find ways to abuse it. And sometimes you can dodge, and sometimes you can't. And even when you try to dodge, it doesn't really respond very well. I mean, the range just doesn't cover. It sometimes doesn't work at all. The what higher and lower levels when you're doing combos, sometimes you'll be cut off at a ledge, even though you're already lined up with the person. Like there's an invisible fucking wall there, which does nobody any good. I mean, there are moments when it runs okayish. Presentation is nice. The sound is nice. The character models are a bit more improved from Bat War because this is obviously made for PS4 exclusively. Um, so there's a little bit fun to have. The roster is not that bad. It's about 29 to 30, give or take. Some secondary writers, but not all. The more current series is like basically EX8 and Ghost are featured. They have all their forms. Not a lot in the form change department because obviously if you can use fucking if you use trigger form for freaking double and all that, you probably never need to use anything else. You just spam shoot all the way. This is highly melee focused, and the projectiles are what they are, but they're useful to a point. Sometimes abusive, and for others. But yeah, I don't know. I just not. As for the rank match stuff, obviously community problems being this is kind of a niche game for Westerners for us to play, so you're not really gonna find a lot of people in random matches. Most of the time, you're gonna be forced pigeonholed to do 1v1s in ranked. Sometimes even having to deal with muddy lag fest on purpose just to be able to get the chance to fight with people. Uh, there is a little bit of an attempt at a community through a Discord server. That topic is out on GameFAQs. I'm not really gonna put a link to that, but but most of the time you're gonna be playing with that same tiny niche group of people, which kind of runs its course very fast. And there's just not a lot of other options there, really. It's just kind of it. Rank matches just might as well not even exist. Rank is of no importance to this game, so that's a big chunk of the replayability kind of shoved out. The offline stuff just not a lot shoved out. A lot of just questionable game mechanics. The whole, I mean, the game could have really benefited from a standard guard break, or a possible, or just throws. There's not even throws. You can't even throw anyone in this game, which really feels weird for a melee focused fighter. Not even having a basic throw. Just something to break guard outside of doing, hoping you have the power move that could do it, and waiting for burst. Too many mix-up opportunities tied to burst, and there's not a lot of things you could do when somebody's doing burst. If you don't have it yourself, the only real option you have to really stop them is just either stay on the floor as long as you can till the meter hopefully runs out, or run for your fucking life. That's not good. That doesn't do very good for the mix-up game or the ebb and the flow of combat. It just feels like a hyper-abusive system, and abusing the system is more important to victory than it should be. I guess one nice feature is that the split screen stuff. Split screen up to like 4 people. So if you want to buy it for one, you've got like 3 other friends. You go to their house and you have like a LAN party kind of deal. That's kind of nice. A lot of more games should have that. Limited share play, but pretty free with share replay. So you can pretty much record anything in the game, which is good. But the limited share play is kind of a little irritating because if you have a friend you want to play it with, but they don't have the game, you can't really do that. They can see the gameplay, but they can't really touch the controller. It'll read as a blocked off scene on purpose, and they can't move or do shit. Even then, you'll have to make sure one of you is most likely the person who's joining has to have the same exact region profile as the game you're playing. So that's another stupid thing I can't really get behind. So the not having a fully customizable soundtrack is kind of a big bummer. That kind of sucks, and it's just not a lot there. There's not a lot meat on the bone to really feel like you're getting the most for your money. You're just not, and there's not that humongous. There's not these fun modes you can just play to get that incentive to want to learn more and do more and maybe play with those people again and again and again. It doesn't feel that fluent. It feels very slow. It feels very janky. It just feels like there's not a lot of mix-up game. It feels like more about reading preset ranges than actually trying to trick your opponents into doing what you want, or trying to spam projectiles just to eventually hit them, or whatever the hell. It doesn't feel very solid. Nothing in this game that's being done, that Gunner Versus or even J-Stars for that matter, don't execute way better than this. especially Gundam Versus. I mean, by comparison, if you compare rosters, like, the roster in this is pitiful compared to Gundam Versus any version of that game. And it just, it's one of those things where it just feels kind of imbalanced, and it just feels rather balanced, rather uninspired. Not a lot of effort taken into single player, not a lot of incentive to want to spend a lot of time with it. The more I play it, I want to fucking play it less. And I feel very disappointed and unhappy with the experience. It doesn't justify the price of a premium sound edition, so I don't recommend buying it. You could mute the sound in the background and just play your own MP3 tracks on your computer or some shit like that. It's just the same thing. And it's really lacking. And it's lacking a lot of polish. It seems to be a little bit rushed just to meet the holiday season. I mean, maybe there's a possibility, and if they do future iterations, they could fix it and make it better. But personally, I don't really have any faith in this as a franchise. Not with this outing, not with this lack of attempt, and I'm not going to sit around and wait for it to somehow become better. I've done enough online ranked, online player 4v4. I've done enough of it to get a good sample size of how good or bad the flow is. There's sometimes it's kind of enjoyable, but the more and more people get better at abusing certain gameplay concepts or things, there's no way to play without really abusing maybe the burst mode or the lack of decent defense or a lot of other things. And the more you play it, the more people kind of exploit things about it, the more you're going to enjoy it less. Sadly, there's no way around that. There really isn't. And the lack of a functioning cancel system, like Gundam Versus, being able to cancel every move fluently, and being able to go, attack in and out fluently and stuff like that. A lot of good 2v2 tactics that the Gundam Versus series is very good with, not present here. And it kind of makes things a clusterfuck, especially when everybody's really close to each other. And it's all just a generic melee slap fest, and somebody's always going to get hit, and there's no ebb and flow of retreating and attacking. The running meter kind of dies out really fast, which makes it really hard to kind of save your partner if you don't have a good projectile move. And it burns out too fast for just a sprint run that's not tied to anything but sprinting. If it's just running, it shouldn't even burn out at all. It's just generic running. It's not tied to any movement-based cancel meter. So yeah, the game, even Battle War has a better cancel. Like Battle War had better base gameplay than this. You can cancel almost every single move fluently. You can switch your attacks fluently. You can use all your forms. It's just, that was a different genre. It was more of a DW style beat 'em up. But I don't know. It's missing a lot of key components that other 2v2 games have done better, and the Gundam Versus has done better, which is kind of the king of this genre. There's no way around that. And this doesn't do a lot to justify its price, even at its regular reduced price, maybe like 50 something. But but you had shipping, it came out to 70 something like it did for me, and that's not worth it. I just can't find a reason to justify telling anybody to buy this game. I mean, yeah, maybe if you're a fan, a super fan, you'll get some mild enjoyment out of it. But to be honest, you get even more enjoyment out of Battle War. I mean, the only edge I would give this one is that, yeah, it has a versus mode, but it's a big whoop. Yeah, it has a certain one or two advanced characters that Battle War doesn't have, like Ghost, having a measure of all his forms, not actually all his forms. They're brief cameos, but they're there, and EX8, and I guess having build. But to be honest, that doesn't. The Battle War has like a lot of characters from each existing series as it took from, so it kind of more than makes up for it. And you can use all the forms freely and do all that freely and have the customized soundtracks and have all that. So even compared to Battle War, if you had to pick and choose which of the two Kamen Rider games you want to buy, and you haven't bought Battle War yet, so say buy Battle War Genesis instead of this. This is kind of a hard pass. I'd say maybe 2 out of 5, 2.5 out of 5, if I'm trying to be generous. If you get on the Discord server, whatever, there's a game. Go to GameFAQs. There's a topic on that. You can get some people to play. I'll give them some credit for trying to take the effort to try to get players to play this. Maybe you'll have some fun with it. Maybe more than I had, but I just didn't. I kind of demand more from my 2v2 games, and I hold this genre to a certain high standard and a competitive standard. And I didn't expect this to be overly competitive, but I expected it to be at least fun. It is only mildly fun, a passing interest, a very shallow experience. And, there's just not a lot to justify the cost. I think you should pass on it. Wait for a possible sequel, but I don't really expect a sequel to really correct all of the problems. They really need to do some solid canceling, speed up the gameplay maybe a little, fix how the burst mode works. It shouldn't be a get out of jail free card. It shouldn't be super armor abuse. You know, it should just be a mode with more, just better moves. You know, that's it really. You should just have better moves and one ultimate attack, not a complete I'll just lean, you can't do shit situation. That's not good for anyone, and it really hurts 2v2, especially when two people kind of sit on it and wait to do it at the same time. They can literally turn the tide of a bout immediately at times, and that's not a good sign. With ultimate attacks being completely unblockable, which is also pretty stupid and something Gun does do. So basically, this isn't the final.